It's time to get your news on. We are VK1WIA.
Yes, it certainly is time. It's time for the national news from the WIA for week commencing November 26. This week, Scott Williams, WIA President, VK3KJ. Editor-in-Chief of Amateur Radio Magazine, Roger Harrison, VK2ZRH. Plus much, much more, including Veronica, the universe's most colourful CubeSat. Yes, it's pink. All this in this edition of news from the Wireless Institute of Australia, the Black Friday Sale Edition. Yep, the place to be is AREG Sale, today, November 26. I'm Editor Graham, VK4 Baker.
Hi there, this is WIA Director and President Scott Williams, VK3KJ, and welcome to the WIA broadcast this week. This week I'd like to talk to you about a very important strategic volunteer role within the WIA known as Regulatory Council. The WIA has been very fortunate over many, many years to have Peter Young, VK3MV, perform this role, and what an outstanding contribution Peter has made. In fact, Peter was awarded honorary life membership of the WIA at the AGM earlier this year, and there is no doubt much of the recognition Peter received was for his outstanding work on the Regulatory Council. Peter Young announced several months ago that he'd be stepping down from the role, but would continue in a support role, so the hunt commenced to find somebody that would do justice to this very important role. Before I announce who has been appointed, let me just quickly talk to you about the role and what it involves. The role focuses on providing advice and interpretation to the WIA board on regulatory matters pertaining to the amateur service and the amateur satellite service. Areas of responsibility include advice on the Radio Communications Act 2003, Amateur Licence Conditions Determination, Apparatus Licence Conditions Determination, Australian Radio Frequency Spectrum Plan, and other legislative instruments. The role provides advice to the WIA board and members on the Australian Communications and Media Authority licensing and compliance policy that affects the amateur service. The role also represents the WIA at ACMA presentations, information sessions and meetings as required, and has a key focus on matters pertaining to regulatory issues. There is a detailed terms of reference that covers the responsibility of the role. I'm delighted to announce that Justin Giles Clark, VK7TW, and former WIA President, has accepted the role. I can say that on behalf of the board, we are delighted with this appointment, and we believe Justin is the perfect person to take on this very important role. With a transition to class licensing and significant reforms and consultation occurring on a regular basis, having Justin in the role, supported by Peter Young, sure places the WIA in a strong advocacy position. That's it for me this week, and this has been Scott Williams, WIA President, for this week's WIA News.
Across Australia from VK1WIA, you're tuned to the WIA National News Service. Across Northern VK7, it can be heard on repeaters VK7s, RAA, RAC, RAL and RWC. At 9 a.m. local time on Sundays and Tuesdays at 8 p.m. I'm Peter, VK7PD.
Yes, I'm back. This is Editor-in-Chief of Amateur Radio Magazine, Roger Harrison, VK2ZRH. Dudes, last Monday, the files for issue number 6 of AR Magazine for this year, the last one, were uploaded to the printer's server in Bairnsdale, Victoria. I should not tell a lie, they went on Tuesday morning. We just had to make sure that everything we could possibly fit in went in. What's left over is for future issues. Look out for the issue landing late next week, in your letterbox, your post office box, or your local newsagent. The theme for this soon-to-arrive issue is antennas, feed lines and propagation. Something for everyone. Almost. Well, some of you anyway. If you're picking up your copy in the newsagent, look for the dramatic picture of an awkward-looking but totally awesome vertical takeoff and landing aircraft flying over Surfers Paradise Beach here on the Gold Coast. The cover feature is about how a tight team of Gold Coast amateurs provided critical communications support to the first Pacific Air Show in Australia last August. A truly remarkable wide area UHF repeater network was pulled together and built especially for this phenomenal community event. The articles covering the theme will have to wait until you get a copy in your eager hands. Actually, I've been told to keep it short. So that's it from me. Wait, book your turn to put VK90 AR to air. Last chance. Amateur Radio Magazine, Volume 91, Issue number 6 for this year. More guts, less gab. Serving Australian ham dudes for 90 years. Proudly produced and printed in Australia. Always available online. Always published to a schedule. Never random. I'm Roger Harrison, VK2ZRH, for VK1WIA News.
Hi, I'm John, VK2JPM. Here's a suggestion to expand your hobby in a way that you probably haven't considered. There are over 460 community broadcasting stations in Australia, and they all need technology support. It's the same skills you use to get on air: selecting stuff, connecting, building, testing, fixing, more fixing. Every broadcaster has RF, transmitters, antennas and links, FM, AM and at serious power. We build skills with audio, computers, acoustics, lighting, aircon and generators, putting together, operating, doing field events and emergency operation, and so much more. If it sounds like amateur radio on steroids, that's because it is, and there's a place for you. Technorama is the volunteer organisation created to build our technologist community. We provide training, cross-pollinate skills and have fun. And many broadcast techs started as or became amateur radio operators. Next weekend, 1 to 3 December, is our annual gathering, TR23, in Chatswood, Sydney, and you're invited. The TR23 theme is Building Your Next Facility. Our guest of honour is one of the industry's most senior technologists, and we'd love you to come along, hang out with, learn from, and pass your skills to people just like you. All the info is at technorama.org.au. It's not too late to register, and we're gender and age friendly. The printed version of this WIA story has additional info. Check technorama.org.au. Look forward to meeting you at TR23. 73s.
From here, there and everywhere, you've tuned to the Wireless Institute of Australia's National News Service. We are VK1WIA. Now with international news, Jason, VK2LAW.
Hello. Leading this week's international news, WRC 23. Monday, November 20 saw a hugely well-attended opening ceremony, speeches and initial plenaries as WRC 23 got underway. Around 3,500 plus delegates were present, and on the sidelines, some 23-centimetre news emerged from IARU. IARU were able to confirm the progress on 23 centimetres in the preceding ITU radio assembly. The draft text of an ITUR recommendation has been agreed after some long and difficult hours seeking a usable compromise. Most of the recent difficulties have been in the lower 1250 MHz part of the band, as well as power and antenna angle profiles for 1260 to 1262 MHz amateur satellite uplinks. However, as the detailed IARU report indicates, achieving consensus on what will become ITUR recommendation M2164 is just the first vital step. How it's referred to, if at all, by the ITU radio regulations is the critical challenge to come. In news from Region 1, our Irish friends have a cute activity about to hit the airwaves. It's where kids can talk to the big man himself. Yes, Santa is coming to Shannon Basin Radio Club. Santa is taking time out from his busy schedule to have some QSOs with Junior Ops on Saturday, December 9th. He will be QRV on the EI2 SBC, Echo Icicle 2 Santa Before Christmas repeater. As the club says, Junior Ops are welcome to have a QSO with Santa in his home QTH. It'll be an opportunity to confirm you're on his good list or not, and that the correct presents are in the bag. The October edition of the IARU Monitoring System Region 1 newsletter has been published. In amongst the illegal fishing buoys, over-the-horizon radars and taxis, they also report observing an intriguing unknown digital signal that they've never received before. The monthly newsletters also demonstrate the highly interesting and diverse range of signals that encroach on our amateur radio bands. To news from Region 2. Out of IARU Region 2, but of immense benefit to all regions, is a massive $200 million gift to SETI. Yes, a $200 million philanthropic gift from the estate of Franklin Antonio, November 6 November Kilo Foxtrot, co-founder of Qualcomm and a long-time supporter of SETI's work. Franklin is probably recognised by many viewers as author of the Instant Track orbital tracking software. The funding will boost initiatives such as postdoctoral fellowships, global research expansion, educational programs, and innovative observational technologies impacting all domains of SETI research. N6NKF's legacy is expected to provide lasting financial stability and foster new partnerships for the Institute. Founded in 1984 to explore the origins of life and intelligence in the universe. A new node for the Reverse Beacon Network. In a news release dated 13th of November, the Yasmi Foundation is pleased to report that a new African node has been added to the RBN, Reverse Beacon Network, with the activation of 7 Quebec 6 Mike in Malawi. The node was funded through a grant from ARDC, managed and implemented by Yasmi. The Yasmi board also approved at its November board meeting funding for a node in Ushuaia at the southern tip of Argentina. With the Preventing Illegal Radio Abuse Through Enforcement Pirate Act signed into law in 2020, a new era dawned for the FCC and its ability to issue larger fines against the operators of pirate radio stations in order to deter illegal operations. In continuing that mission, the FCC has issued $6.4 million in proposed fines against several pirate radio operators located in the Bronx and Brooklyn in New York City and in the neighbouring city of Mount Vernon, according to a news release last Wednesday, November 15. FCC Chairwoman Jessica Rosenworcel said, in the Pirate Act, Congress upped the ante. It increased the penalties for those who transmit unauthorised signals over the FM and AM radio bands because they can compromise public trust in this service and jeopardise the broadcasting of emergency alerts. This means higher fines and more regular enforcement sweeps in our largest radio markets. Weird and wonderful. You'll never know when you'll be called upon to dig your way out of an emergency. I can't imagine what kind of situation would call for whipping up a satellite ground station for NOAA weather satellites from junk. But hey, it could happen. And when it does, you'll be ready. As long as you have an umbrella, some foil tape, some various bits and bobs like wire and an RTL SDR dongle. Hackaday are reporting on this umbrella build that, as you can imagine, takes a lot of tweaking to get it right. The umbrella and foil tape form the main reflector for the antenna, with a pie tin, a scrap of wire, and some random twigs being used to build the antenna's helical feed. Attached to an RTL SDR plugged into a dodgy second-hand phone, the experimenter was able to get at least some kind of data from one of the GOES satellites. For VK1 WIA National News, in Sydney, I'm Jason, VK2LAW.
We are VK1 WIA. Now, operational news with Felix, VK4 FUQ.
Hello there. Now, contest-wise, VHF viewership Spring Field Day this weekend, 25-26 November. 75th CQ LYDX contest CW League is also this weekend, November 25-26, on the 160 to 10 metre contest bands. Exchanges Signal Report and your CQ zone. Now, contest-wise, 2024, Ross Hall Memorial Contest, running on VHF and above for the month of January. You nominate the best 7-day or 2-day period per category. January 2024 VHF UHF Summer Field Day, 13-14 January. 0100 hours UTC Saturday to 0059 hours UTC Sunday. Australia Day Contest. This contest is to encourage amateur radio promotional activity around the world and is designed to encourage friendly participation and help improve the operating skills of participants. It is held on the Australia Day public holiday, 26th of January. And finally, 1 for February. New Zealand's Jock White Memorial Field Day will be 24-25 February 2024. The rules have been tweaked slightly and are now up on the NZART website. Overseas contacts now score the same points as CL contacts. The definition of acceptable overseas contacts has changed to Oceania, as defined by the DXCC list. These changes have been made to better align the rules with the contest objective, simplify scoring, and to use a defined geographical boundary. DX window, Antarctica. Special Event Station L36Z marks the 36th anniversary of the Argentine Antarctic base, Esperanza. Activities on the HF bands using PSK 31 and FT8. QSL via LU4 DXU. Cambodia. QRV is XU7GNY today, November 26 on 86 metres. This includes being an entry in the CQ Worldwide DXCW contest. QSL via DJ6TF. Laos. A group of operators are QRV as XW4DX from Vientiane until tomorrow, November 27. Activities on 160 to 10 metres, except 80, 60 and 30 metres. Using CW, SSB and FT8 with 5 stations. QSL via F4 BKV. Luxembourg. LX90 RTL is in use to celebrate the 90th anniversary of Radio Luxembourg's first longwave broadcast. It is being used by various LX operators until the end of the year. Listen for the call sign on the HF bands on SSB, CW, digital modes and via satellite. All QSOs will be confirmed automatically via the DARC Bureau. The logs will be uploaded to Club Log, Logbook of the World and EQSL on a regular basis. Namibia. QRV is V51WH from Omauru until the end of April 2024. Activities on 160 to 10 metres, including 60 metres for those in the world able to use that band. V51WH. QSL de Gunta, home call is DK2WH. For VK1WIA National News, I'm Felix, VK4FUQ Enningham.
From here, there and everywhere, you've tuned to the Wireless Institute of Australia's National News Service on VK1WIA.
Media Watch, Her Radio, Her Life, Her Movie. The story of an influential YL, happy among her family of hams and inspiring others around the world. Would make a great subject for a feature film, and now it has. John Williams, VK4JJW, tells us about her and the new documentary.
Even if she doesn't feel like a movie star, Bharati Devapulave is generating a lot of excitement on the film screen in a new 1-hour documentary, My Radio, My Life, that premiered Friday the 10th of November at the Africa International Film Festival. The team of filmmakers from Pune, India, takes a sweeping yet very personal view of the medium in all its varied forms, from shortwave enthusiast to commercial broadcaster to amateur radio operator, focusing on a handful of its most ardent practitioners. As someone who's been a radio amateur for more than half of her life, Bharati, VU2RBI, plays a central role in the film, giving the camera crew access to her shack in Hyderabad earlier this year and introducing the many members of her very large ham radio family, including her husband, VU2DBP, her daughter, VU2DTR, and her son, VU3DVS. The veteran de-expeditioner, who's assisted widely in disaster management communications and received many awards worldwide, is an advocate and educator for amateur radio education, particularly for YLs. The documentary, which is expected to arrive in India sometime in 2024, is scheduled to appear at other festivals around the world, where it'll be among many films vying for awards. For Bharati, the title couldn't be more perfect. My Radio, My Life is her story. This is John Williams, VK4JJW.
We are VK1WIA. Now, special interest group news with Cole, VK3GTV.
Hello, Worldwide Special Interest Group's final frontier, Veronica. Space Manic's Pink CubeSat successfully launched. Veronica, a one-unit CubeSat, was launched on SpaceX's Transporter 9 mission, marking the third Slovak satellite to venture into space. Boris Prochik, a financier from Slovakia, had approached Space Manic to construct and launch the CubeSat, making it the first family satellite of its kind. Veronica, named after Boris's daughter, went beyond being a CubeSat with a personal touch. It was a technologically advanced mission designed to support the Slovak and international amateur radio community. The CubeSat features an array of technical capabilities to serve its primary objectives. 9K6, G3RUH, AX25 telemetry, Digipeater, CW beacon, SSTV transmissions. The IARU coordinated downlink frequency is 436.680 MHz. Veronica will be operated by Amateur Radio Club OM3 KSI, which will actively participate in its mission. In an unconventional move, Veronica was not only the first ever family-named satellite, but also the first ever pink satellite, adding a personal and distinctive touch to its appearance. Lost in space. Danger, Will Robinson. Who remembers that? NASA's newest satellite in orbit, some 200 miles above Earth, isn't one that you can contact by radio. In fact, it's not an official satellite at all, but a bag of tools lost from the International Space Station. AR Newsline's Kent Peterson, KC0DGY, tells us how it got lost in space.
NASA astronauts Jasmine Mockbelly, KI5WSL, and Laurel O'Hara, KI5TOM, were conducting a spacewalk on November 1st. They were tending to a solar alpha rotary joint that helps the ISS track the sun, and they were conducting maintenance work on a communications antenna. That's when it happened. The suitcase-sized tool bag they were using slipped free of Mockbelly's grasp and went off onto a space mission of its own. According to various media accounts, the bag, which has an exterior that reflects the sun, is now hurtling along at a few thousand miles an hour on a journey that is expected to end when, just as with another toolbox lost in 2009, it enters the Earth's atmosphere and burns up. So no, you can't make radio contact with this particular rogue satellite, but a number of people, including Japanese astronaut Satoshi Furukawa, have been able to see it, and at one point it was directly over Mount Fuji. It is apparently not difficult to find if you have a telescope or high-power binoculars. If you see this free-floating toolbox and capture its image, the website EarthSky is hoping you'll share it with them. All images can be uploaded using the link that appears in this week's text version. This is Kent Peterson, KC0DGY.
Thanks, Kent. And suddenly dropping that nut or bolt whilst working on a roof doesn't seem so bad now, does it? Worldwide Special Interest Groups, Rescue Radio. Following record flooding in New South Wales last year, which impacted communities across the state and resulted in more than 80,000 calls to the State Emergency Service, the New South Wales state government has announced a $25 million upgrade to the SES's flood rescue fleet. More than $14.7 million will go towards 142 additional boats, rafts, trucks, cars and trailers in response to recommendations from the Independent Flood Inquiry. All new vehicles are being equipped with vehicle-as-a-node technology, allowing crews to communicate using 4G and satellite networks, in addition to regular radio networks. India, Kolkata. The state government has set the ball rolling for setting up a temporary ham radio station at Mazuni Island. This is to be used considering its vulnerability to frequent cyclonic weather conditions, as well as other major natural disasters. Whenever there is a natural calamity, the normal communication system there goes haywire, and so the district administration can't establish contact with the local administration in different remote islands of the Sudabans, including Masuni Islands, where transportation is a major challenge and waterways being the only option. The State Disaster Management Department joined hands with the West Bengal Radio Club and Indian Academy of Communication and Disaster Management and hosted a 2-day demonstration regarding setting up of a radio station, placing of the antennae and proper communication, the harnessing of solar power in the establishment of communication and other nitty-gritties for local residents of Masuni Island just days ago. Worldwide Special Interest Groups, Radio Amity Youngtimers, YOTA. For the latest news, here's Alec, VK2APC.
Thanks, Cole. Amateur Radio in Schools Convention presentation. As part of its commitment to outreach and the growth of amateur radio, the RSGB has released a presentation from its 2023 convention called Taking Amateur Radio into Schools. Lyle Smith, GM4XID, Chris Leviston, M0KPW, and Simon Harris, G4WQG, share their experiences of inspiring WE School pupils to explore and have fun with amateur radio. Lyle set up an amateur radio club in his school. Chris started an after-school club at his daughter's primary school. Simon, with the help of his friends at his amateur radio club, created links with his son's technical college that have snowballed to other schools in the area. The presentation shows how individual radio amateurs and clubs can make positive and productive links with schools. They give tips and encouragement for getting involved with your local schools. They are great initiatives. I'm Alec, VK2APC in Sydney. Now back to you, Cole.
Thanks, Alec. And that brings me to the end of this week's Special Interest Group news. My time is up. But one last story about time. Fans of keeping Universal Coordinated Time, or UTC, intact, take note. The International Telecommunications Union is discussing one prominent timekeeper's proposal for global standard setters to institute something called the Leap Minute, and whether it should be introduced in light of the recent decision to eliminate the Leap Second. AR Newsline is reporting how the ITU's World Radio Communications Conference in Dubai and an ambitious agenda that includes discussion of a US timekeeper's proposal to address the planned elimination of leap seconds starting in 2035. Leap seconds were originally implemented to synchronize the Earth's irregular rotation with the ultra-precise method of atomic timekeeping. It's this form of timekeeping that's reflected in UTC, the very time standard that radio amateurs, scientists, and many others depend upon worldwide. The leap second was marked for elimination in a vote last year by the International Bureau of Weights and Measures to address its complex impact on technology and other fields. An alternate timekeeping method discussed in Dubai suggests that leap minutes be used instead every 50 years or so as needed to align clocks more closely with the variable movement of the Earth. This alternative form of time adjustment is a concept from Judah Levine of the National Institute of Standards and Technology in the United States. It's unclear what kind of reception this new controversial remedy may ultimately receive from the International Bureau of Weights and Measures itself. We will know, of course, in, wait for it, due time. And after that terrible pun, until next time, I'm Cole, VK3GTV.
This is VK1WIA. All points of contacts from today's news stories are to be found in print when you read the web editions, www.wia.org.au.
2023 social scene as we tie the ribbons. VK5, as I said at the top of the news, Amateur Radio Experimenters Group Radio and Electronic Sale is on now, November 26. In February 4, it's the Barg Hamfest. Now, this is being held right next door to the Barg Club Rooms at the Ballarat Airport, 10 a.m. on Feb 4. And May 4 and 5, WIA AGM. Where? In Bundy. So keep an eye out for when you can book for the WIA AGM and convention. Now till next we meet, I'm Graham, VK4BB. Happy shopping, customers.
From Australia, This has been the Wireless Institute of Australia with the weekly news service. This broadcast is in text, audio and video and is accessed on wia.org.au.
Courtesy of Bevan, VK5 BD's ATV and YouTube channel, this has been WIA National News. We're back now, live and local, and your voice, your callbacks. And don't forget, tick like.
Our sun gets crazy busy this week with big solar storms, big solar flares, and a lot of radio noise on the dayside. Those stories and more in the news this week. If you want to learn how weather from our star causes impacts at the Earth that shape the future of our world, join Professors Dr. Jenny Meehan, Michael Cook, and myself as we guide you through a space weather certificate program like no other. To enroll in the Space Weather and Environment Science program offered at Millersville University, go to millersville.edu/SWEN. It's weather for the 21st century. This forecast also sponsored in part by CW Ops. Our sun picks up in activity this week in a big way. As we take a look at our Earth-facing disk, we say goodbye to region 34, 86, and 87, but we'll return to those regions because they are growing on the sun's far side. Meanwhile, as we look at the rest of the disk, you can see a few filaments that look like they're going unstable, like those there and this one here in the north. Plus, we've got this one here in the south, and keep your eye on it because this one actually did launch as a solar storm on the 22nd. In fact, it even got some involvement from this region in here, so it was kind of a two-parter solar storm. Whoosh, right there, there it goes. And as we take a look at our coronagraph, you can actually see the signature here. It's not really a partial halo. It looks like this one's going to go mainly south of Earth, but that's the first part of it. That's the filament that left the disk here. Now, as we continue pushing that forward, look at this second little miniature kind of signature here. This signature is from the region 3489 that's behind it right now. This one might actually clip us a little bit, but this one's probably not going to be that big a deal. It may hit us sometime around the 26th, but it's mainly because this region 3489 continues to be active. It is a big flare player, but believe it or not, it's not the only one. It's not even the ones that we're really watching. Of course, the ones that we're watching is this massive mess over here. Believe it or not, just over the last few days, we now have 11 active regions in Earth view, and man, is this set of regions kind of clustered and busy and crowded and angry. In fact, region 3490 and 3492, these are the regions that we're watching. They have been firing solar flares and solar storms on the sun's far side. They are big flare players, so expect that risk for radio blackouts, maybe up to even an R3 level radio blackout, increase over the next few days. Likely something is going to let loose here pretty soon. I don't know if it's going to be, it's going to rotate into the Earth strike zone before we get a big solar storm launch or a big solar flare. But amateur radio operators and emergency responders, expect the noise on the bands to be pretty intense. Expect that to continue because we even have more regions that are going to be rotating into Earth view here over the next few days. In fact, as we take a look at our JSOC HMI helioseismology far-sighted viewer, we can see this is the Earth-facing disk in gray here. This has been over about the past week, but in gold is where we see the stuff rotating to the sun's far side. And this is where I get back to talking about region 34, 86, and 87 because those are the regions that rotated to the sun's far side. And along with region 34, 72, and 74, these regions are the ones that have actually already rotated to the Earth side again. You'll see them kind of popping out back in the gray. That's what all this cluster of junk is. It's old region 3472 and 3474, plus a whole bunch of new regions are kind of coming up and emerging all around it. So these ones actually gave us trouble last rotation, and now they're back again with a vengeance. So we shall see what comes from these regions. We might finally get some more activity. It'll finally start looking more like solar maximum. Plus, we have regions 3479 and 3477, and there we go, 3487. So these regions too are all growing on the sun's far side. We could get even more solar flux boost over the next week or two, and I guarantee you big radio bursts are back on the menu, and so likely are solar storms. And no sooner than I said that, then we have to take a look at the east limb of the sun. Wait for it. You'll see a brightening whoosh right there. Do you see that? And then followed by pow. And again, pow! There were 3 different solar storms launched, and that gave us an R1 level radio blackout for quite some time, and then a couple other pops after that. But believe it or not, we are still dealing with big solar storm potential because these regions are still very, very active. We do even have a filament that looks like it might go here soon, plus new regions rotating into view and emerging at the same time. So this means activity is definitely going to stay quite busy over this next week, and it looks like big solar flares, including R3 level radio blackouts and solar storms, are going to be on the menu. In fact, as we take a look at our M-flare threat meter, look at the X-ray flux, watch it rise and rise and rise. We did get a few M-class flares over this past week, but really all of the activity has really kind of focused as we've ramped up. Look at this floor, this noise floor. We are way above the C floor now, sitting at about a C5 level. That's just the noise level. So amateur radio operators and emergency responders, I guarantee you, you're dealing with a lot of noise on the bands right now on the Earth's day side. And you can see we got a pop up here. This was the R1 level radio blackout and a couple other pops. Those were the solar storms that launched eastward of Earth. So we're going to be getting a lot more of these. We do have risk for an R3 level radio blackouts, and GPS users definitely near dawn and dusk, stay vigilant because your GPS reception may not be all that good. Now, switching to our solar storm conditions, well, we were expecting to hit from a big solar storm on the 19th and 20th, but as you can see, it was pretty much a fizzle. We stayed at unsettled conditions and didn't really go much from there. However, there was this fast solar wind chaser that we were expecting. Wasn't expecting all that much from that, and instead, bam! Do you see that? We got hit by a stronger fast wind, and which kind of made up for the solar storm fizzle. In fact, it bumped us to storm levels and kept us storming for almost over a day. And that brought some gorgeous aurora views clear down to Austria and Germany. We even had aurora clear down in Kansas in the United States. It was pretty crazy. So aurora photographers, well, they managed to get a bit of a show just a little bit later than they expected. So that was a good thing. And now we're basically sitting at unsettled conditions, and those conditions will continue over the next day or two until about the 25th, when we're expecting to get that glancing blow from that solar storm that's going basically south of us. But it could bump us up to active conditions, so aurora photographers, get ready for that, especially at high latitudes. And with all this new activity that we're seeing, guaranteed the chances for Earth-directed solar storms over this week and the next are going to be high. So what else does our sun have in store for us this week? Well, let's return to the disk and take a look at all of the active regions in Earth view, because man, there sure are a lot of them, and we've got some new regions popping up all the time. In fact, the ones that we really want to watch is this cluster right here. This is because this is where the X-flare players are. So as we begin to blow that region up, you can see especially region 3490 and region 3492. These are going to be the regions to watch this week. The reason why is because they've got a lot of magnetic mixing. You can see the different colors here. This shows that there's a lot of magnetic orientations that are kind of opposite of each other, and that makes these regions really angry and unstable. So 3490, you'll see a few things growing in here, and you can see region 3492 giving us trouble, and also a lot of new activity there, and all of the little lightning bolts that you see, that is showing the all this changing and magnetic reconfiguration going on. So these regions are growing quite quickly, and they're very unstable. So we could definitely see lots of like R3 level radio blackouts and big solar storms. And these regions are beginning to rotate into the Earth strike zone over this next day or two. So expect more solar storms and solar flares to be on the menu. Now, returning to that solar storm that was launched back on the 22nd, we take a look at our solar storm prediction model, NLUL. Now, this is NOAA's version of the model. The top panel's density, the bottom panel's velocity. You're looking down at the sun from the North Pole with Earth being off to the right. Now, as we set this solar storm model in motion, you'll see that solar storm being launched mainly to the east of Earth and also to the south of Earth. But take a look at this little lip right here. Do you see that? That is the northwesternmost part of this solar storm that was launched back from region 3489. Do you remember in that coronagraph, I showed a second part of the solar storm coming out? Right, that's it. And sure enough, it looks like it's going to hit Earth just a little bit. NOAA has impact time just slightly in the afternoon on the 25th, but this solar storm is also going to be followed by a fast wind chaser. This is some fast solar wind that's coming afterwards. So expect storming to definitely pick up by the 26th. We could be storming from like midday to late on the 25th into the 26th. And the last time we had a fast wind chaser, the wind was stronger than expected, so that may happen again. So aurora photographers, if you're at high latitudes, you can definitely expect a show, and aurora photographers at mid latitudes, well, get ready. We might just have some surprise aurora even at mid latitudes. Switching to our moon, we are now passing through the first quarter phase on our way to a full moon, with a full moon being on the 27th. So you night sky watchers, if you want to catch those dim objects in the sky, like, I don't know, maybe some aurora, well, you're going to have this bright companion to deal with, so you're going to need to check your local rise and set times. And now switching to our solar storm conditions and aurora possibilities over the coming week, we are anticipating that solar storm, that glancing solar storm blow to hit us sometime late on the 25th, followed by a fast wind chaser. So at high latitudes, NOAA's expecting active to minor storm conditions with up to about a 20 or possibly 35% chance of major storm conditions. It's kind of hard to tell this far out when we're forecasting that far out. We'll see if the models end up being revised a little bit and give us a little bit more accurate prediction. But aurora photographers, if you're at high latitudes, you definitely could get a chance. Plus, we have so many new active regions in Earth view, there's going to be more chances for solar storms, guaranteed. Now, at mid latitudes, well, we're only expecting unsettled conditions, but we could jump up to active conditions around the 26th. And again, the reason for this has to do with the fact that we've got that fast wind chaser along with that solar storm glancing blow. So you might get a chance for some aurora views. It's going to be hard to tell, but stay vigilant because, again, we could have big solar storms on the way here over this week and possibly even next. Now, switching to our solar flare and dayside radio blackout outlook over the coming week, we have so many active regions in Earth view that it's pumping our solar flux clear up into the 190s. In fact, over this next week, we might actually pop up into the 200s, believe it or not. We are sitting at moderate noise on the bands, and this is mainly due to regions 3490 and 3492. But we do have even more new regions that are going to be rotating into Earth view that have already proven themselves as big flare players. So expect that moderate noise to stay pretty high. In fact, NOAA's giving us about a 55% chance of M-class flares. This is at an R1 to R2 radio blackout, and even a 10% chance of an R3 level radio blackout. These are the X-class flares. This is over the next 3 days. I think that there's a chance that this will even pump up a little bit more as we move into the latter part of this week. So amateur radio operators and emergency responders and GPS users, stay vigilant. And this is even possibly satellite operators, because we may be dealing with big radio blackouts that go up into the high frequency range. Just stay vigilant on Earth's day side, and know that there's going to be a lot of noise on the radio bands this week and likely next week before things begin to calm down. Now, switching to our radiation storm and polar aviation outlook over the coming week, everything is in the green right now, but likely this is going to change. We are at the D1 normal range, and this is at flight level 360 for you aviators, which is also the S0 quiet range for everyone else. We do have about a 5% chance of radiation storm at an S1 to S2 level, but as the week continues, that is easily going to rise. As we get close to the end of this week, we will easily be 10%, possibly 15% chance for radiation storms because of all the new big flare players that have been rotating and emerging on the Earth-facing disk. So everything is okay for you frequent flyers and you air crew right now and the high-risk passengers, but definitely stay tuned to your space weather forecasts and those ICAO advisories because they are coming out quite quickly. So the space weather this week is getting more active by the minute. We have a lot of new regions either emerging or rotating into Earth view, and that means we need to stay on our toes this week. Now, we do have an Earth-directed solar storm that's going to give us a glancing blow right maybe midday on the 25th and into the 26th. And with that fast solar wind that's a chaser, we definitely could be getting aurora shows, especially at high latitudes. And now, aurora photographers, if you're at mid-latitudes, well, you know, last time we had some fast solar wind, it actually gave us a better show than we anticipated. So you, even down at mid-latitudes, might get some sporadic shows, so stay at the ready. Plus, with all these new active regions in Earth view and beginning to rotate into the Earth strike zone, we definitely have a higher chance for getting more Earth-directed solar storms both this week and next week before things calm down. Now, amateur radio operators and emergency responders, well, you know, we're dealing with an incredible amount of noise on the radio bands this week, and that's going to be a problem for radio propagation on Earth's day side. On top of that, we're dealing with the chance for these big radio blackouts. You're probably going to see a lot of them, possibly up to that R3 level. So you're going to just have to deal with that and hunker down for the next week or two, possibly before things begin to settle back down, or do some propagation, do some DXing on the night side. And now you GPS users, well, things aren't looking too good for you either. Right now, the dawn and dusk regions are likely a really hazardous time to get decent reception. And on the night side, when that glancing solar storm comes, you might have to deal with some aurora problems. So stay away from aurora, stay away from the dawn-dusk terminators, and be very vigilant on the day side because that radio noise is just a killer. I'm Tamitha Skov, the Space Weather Woman. Thank you for watching.